Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So share a little bit more. I mean, I guess I'm sure that the first stage everyone knows what it's about this reaction, and because most of the people we are in this most of our life, and then but the other two stages, creative and transformational, I'm sure that people are really curious about hearing more about it. So you can just if you can just um, talk about the creative and then for about the transformational and how it looks like actually.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people are in creative relationships. Yeah. And again, the first is connection. And, I'm going to mirror this always back to self and other. Yeah. And so a creative relationship, I spend regular time connecting with myself. Yeah. I'm self-reflecting. Yeah. I have some level of contemplation, reflection. Yeah. I'm aware of how I'm showing up. Yeah. And if I'm connected with myself from that place, connection with other becomes much easier. Yeah. Instead of reactive, you start to respond, what can I give? Commitment's a fascinating topic, and it's a very misunderstood commitment. And you mentioned truth earlier, which is often misunderstood. So true freedom only lives in true commitment.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Can you say more about
And
it? Yeah.
yeah. And just a thin slice commitment. So commitment, the definition of commitment is I choose to have no more choice. I'm committed. I've made that decision. And again, it starts with yourself. What are you committed to in your life for yourself? What are those non-negotiables? And if you want to know what you're committed to, just watch your behavior. Look at your behavior the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Yeah. I'm committed to getting fit. I just don't go to the gym. I'm committed to my relationship. Yeah. I just don't have time for it. That's not commitment. Yeah. It's like, that's just a nice idea. But if you're regularly doing your practice, if you're regularly going for the gym, if you're regularly spending time with your beloved, if you're starting to regularly connect with your purpose, why am I here? Yeah, then you're committed. And what happens in relationship is, and this is, working with a lot of young men, Dimi, this might ring true for you. A lot of men think commitment means I'm losing my freedom. Yeah, this is the illusion of what commitment is, because when you commit to somebody 110%, what you're saying to that person in every moment, in every day, is I choose to absolutely be here. Because the reality is you can leave a relationship at any time. Yeah, that's the truth.
Yes.
The wedding vows, traditional wedding, I commit to you for the rest of my life. Well, it's like, what? It doesn't mean anything. And
Yes.
in my experience, Dimi, 90% of the men I work with, they have their bags packed at the back door, ready to leave.
Wow.
They're not
Wow.
fully 110%. I'm absolutely committed to you. I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to making this relationship work. I'm committed to my personal growth. And when you do that, when you move into that place, again, the communication you're giving the other person is, I absolutely have choice and I choose to be here.
Yes.
And I choose to fully be here. And
Wow.
that energetically is such a huge shift. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely
Yeah.
makes sense, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And curiosity, as you know, in the work you do, um, and it's a fundamental quality and value of yours, in knowing you is, be curious. Be curious about yourself. Be curious about your partner. Be curious about life. Yeah. Like, in some ways, the brain is wired to just automatically find the problem. Yeah. and particularly, the reactive mind, as opposed to the curiosity of where are we, where are we going, where am I? It's such a beautiful quality in relationship. And my wife and I have been together for 43 years. We have 4 children, 10 grandchildren. And that dance of
Wow.
curiosity and joy, bring curiosity. What can I give the relationship? What do I give every day to my beloved?
Yes.
Is a very different energy. Then again, what can I get? And then context is crucial. So again, a lot of the listeners would be aware, the power of context. And so just to thin slice it, context gives meaning to content. And so the content of our life is all of the stuff and all of the doing. Life is content. Going to work, lying on the beach, cooking dinner, that's just life. But as you mentioned earlier, we get to give meaning to our life in every moment. And the way we do it is through our context, which we're normally unconscious of. And so your experience of life is driven by your context in each moment, the meaning you give it. And every relationship has a context. What's the context of our relationship? For what purpose are we together? And that can evolve and develop, but a lot of people don't ask that. In a creative relationship, it's like, what's the context here? Is it about supporting each other to be the best version of ourselves? Is it about spiritual development? Is it about bringing up beautiful children? Is it about adventure and joy and traveling the world? Like, you get to choose. But if you align with your partner on the context, whatever happens in life, life is going to be full of struggles and challenges. Who's doing the cooking? Who looked after the kids? Yet a lot of people are waiting for the perfect person. You've got to look like that. That's life. You work through life. Relationship is active. You work through all of that stuff with a strong container and a strong context.
Yeah.
And you keep coming back to the context instead of trying to sort it out in the content. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
When you just break it down like this, it's way more easier for people to understand what are the parts of this creative relationships, and it just gives me way more power of an ownership, because you can own it now, because you have context in a way, because this is for the context, right? And this makes it way more easier, and now we don't have excuses, right? Just go and do it. So yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to hear about the transformational. I have some things to say, but just let me know, because I'm so excited about to hear more about what is the transformational relationship, because that's something which I think for a lot of people here, they are curious about this.
Yes. And it leads to the other question you mentioned about intimacy, which I'll just touch on and we'll circle back. So intimacy, is into me see. It's absolutely the willingness to be intimate with yourself and with your beloved. Is that into me see, into me you can see, into me I am seeing. And that's when we start to move to transformational relationship, the undefended self. It's that place. So in leadership, there's a lot of conversation about vulnerability now. There are leaders who see vulnerability as a strength, and there are leaders who see vulnerability as a weakness. And their leadership style is absolutely different. If you see vulnerability as a weakness, you're going to be defensive, you're going to be protective, you're going to be judgmental, you're going to withhold. If you see it as a strength, you're going to be open, you're going to be curious, you're going to be more available. And so these are the gateways to transformational relationship. When you really look at the undefended self, the ability to be absolutely intimate with self, with other, with life. Yeah, and one of the tools is vulnerability. Yeah, it's one of the tools you can bring to that. What happens is you start to move into a transformational relationship. The context shifts. It shifts from what can I give, yeah, to there is no separateness. Yeah, this is where quantum theory is now meeting the mystics. Yeah, this is where we realize, yeah, that the illusion of separateness. One of the things with relationship, Dimi, is to know we live in a relative relationship is about relativity. And we live in this illusion of relativity. We live in the relative world. So we're moving as a species from the relative world to the quantum world. And the relative world, it feels like you're separate to me. Yeah, it's them and us. And quantum physics has proven it, and the mystics have known this all along, the traditional wisdom. And so this is when you start to move into conscious relationship, consciousness that holds it all. Yeah, the quantum world, yeah, the divine relationship, sacred relationship. Yeah, and this is when the whole energy of the relationship transforms, because it is the alchemy. Yeah, remember the masculine and feminine, the polarities. You have to find the polarities in yourself. Yeah, and then with your beloved, all of the Kundalini, all of the Ida Pingala, all of the traditional wisdoms, the alchemy and sacredness, yeah, of transformational relationship is such an accelerator to the higher states of being, whatever they might be for you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm so much into that. The idea, honestly, I haven't heard this explanation when we talk about relationship, and I want to know more about it and know to connect more with that. And I'm sure most of the people. So what what was coming up for me when you were talking about this is just that people. Most of the people, what's my observation is that they stay in the reactive relationship. So what can I get? So as a common fact, I would say is that most people is, if I don't receive love, I'm not gonna give love. If I don't receive some kind of help, I'm not gonna give that help, because it's like a transactional way of seeing the relationship in this way. The other one, the creative, again, is kind of transaction, because I'm giving, but you don't expect maybe to take something. Just what can I give to the relationship? What can I create? I'm interested in you. Want to know more about you when it comes to intimate relationship and friendship, because we know that creative fits also with relationship with yourself. But the thing here is, what I'm seeing is people have trouble to transcend that because they don't know that it exists. And they're not aware. They know it somewhere inside, but they're not aware that it exists. I think that's the word. And what happens is, when you are in the creative part, sometimes you are there, you are excited. That happens at the beginning of the relationship, when you love the person. What can I give? What can I do? I want to know more about you. I'm curious. I'm committed. All of these things are there. The context is, I just want to do everything for you. I want to create something great with you. All of these things are there. But at some point, something happens, and you just go back to the reactive, right? And you just play with this two all the time. It's like a ping pong game, right? But you don't, because I think you don't know, you're not aware that there is something more, something which might transcend that. And I think this is the key here for us to understand, that there is something there. Maybe that's a time to really be more curious about what is that. To be connected with yourself and other people, to take full responsibility for the relationship.
Yeah.
To understand the idea that I am fully 100% responsible for what I'm creating, not only with my body, but what I'm creating around me.
Yeah.
So if my wife or girlfriend, she's not committed, maybe I'm creating this not commitment.
Yeah.
If she is angry, because maybe I'm creating this anger. And that's so counterintuitive the way we see the world
Yeah.
most of the time. And this is the place, I think, how I see that. I honestly, I struggle very often also with that. I wouldn't say now very often. Now it's way less, but I am struggling. I'm going. It's like, I just want to say, guys, also is when you say you are in a transformational relationship with yourself and other people, it doesn't mean that you are 100% of the time there. You're gonna go to the reactive, to the creative, and you're just gonna, just go around to these three levels all the time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not linear.
Yeah.
So the masculine wants the world to be linear. Yep. But the truth is, it's a spiral. The hero's journey is a spiral. The heroine's journey is a spiral. So you're going to meet those old wounds. You're going to meet your shadow, but it's not the same place that you met it 5 years ago or 8 years ago. Yeah, but you're going to still touch on that aspect of your shadow that you haven't quite cleaned up. Yeah. And that's what the opportunity is in transformational relationship. Every time you get triggered by other, it's a part of you haven't loved. That's the gift. Yeah. They're always triggering you're not good enough.
Yes.
That's a fundamental belief of every human being on the planet is, I'm not good enough because I'm not valuable and lovable.
Yes.
And that was set up between the age of 0 to 7.
Yes.
And it's not good or bad. It's not about trauma or no trauma. It's just part of this relative world. Cannot know joy unless I've known pain. Cannot know black unless I've known white. This is the relative experience we're on. But the opportunity to heal that, the fastest way in my experience is through committed relationship, moving into transformation, moving into consciousness and divinity. Because all they're mirroring back is they're not good enough. Here's the not good enough. Yep. And that's the beauty. You absolutely are creating your partner showing up that way and your children showing up that way, because they're just mirroring back, triggering a part of you haven't healed, you haven't accepted, you haven't loved. And when you're willing to have that context for your relationship, it's the accelerator, the self-love, which I know you teach.
Yes.
Yeah. If you really want to love yourself, I work a lot with people who've had children. Yep. And they've done work on themselves. Then the kids come along and they're like, yeah, I love myself. I accept myself. And the kids are like, really?
Oh.
And they just, press the button. You really love yourself? Try this. Try this. It's like...
I love that. So, yeah, absolutely, man. Bodhi, that was so strong. I'm going to listen to that many times. And I'm sure guys listen to that many times, because initially it will be, for most of us, it will be a little bit of something new, which we need to listen several times to understand actually that is true, right? We want everything. I love how you say it. Everything goes to this not good enough place in you. And you are creating that in order to heal also this part of yourself. And then you take this responsibility and ownership of yourself. You're gonna, in this way, you take also ownership on your relationships, right? With your children, with your wife.